Penguin Audio presents Secret Prey by John Sandford, read by Richard Ferrone.
Chapter 1. The chairman of the board pulled the door shut behind him, stacked his rifle against the log-sided cabin, and walked down to the end of the porch. The light from the kitchen window punched out into the early morning darkness and the utter silence of the woods. 2 weeks of nightly frost had killed the insects and had driven the amphibians into hibernation. For a few seconds he was alone. Then the chairman yawned and unzipped his bib overalls, unbuttoned his pants, shuffled his feet, the porch boards creaking under his insulated hunting boots. Nothing like a good leak to start the day, he thought. As he leaned over the low porch rail, he heard the door opening behind him. He paid no attention. 3 men and a woman filed out of the house, pretending not to notice him. "Need some snow," the woman said, peering into the dark. Susan Odell was a slender 40 with a tanned, dry face, steady brown eyes, and smile lines around her mouth. A headlamp was strapped around her blaze-orange stocking cap, but she hadn't yet switched it on. She wore a blaze-orange Browning parka, snowmobile pants, and carried a backpack and a Remington .308 mountain rifle with a Leopold Vari X3 scope. Not visible was the rifle's custom trigger job. The trigger would break at exactly 2.5 pounds. "Cold son of a bitch, though," said Wilson MacDonald as he slipped one heavy arm through his gunsling. MacDonald was a large man, and much too heavy. In his hunting suit he looked like a blaze-orange Pillsbury doughboy. He carried an aging .30-06 with open sights, bought in the 30s at Abercrombie & Fitch in New York. At 42 he believed in a certain kind of tradition. His summer car, a racing green XKE, was handed down from his father. His rifle came from his grandfather, and his spot in the country club came from his great-grandfather. He would defend the Jaguar against far better cars, the .30-06 against more modern rifles, and the club against parvenus, hirelings, and, of course, blacks and Jews. "You all ready?" asked the chairman of the board as he came back toward them, buttoning his pants. He was a fleshy, red-faced man, the oldest of the group, with a thick shock of white hair and caterpillar-sized eyebrows. As he got closer to the others, he could smell the odor of pancakes and coffee still steaming off them. "I don't want anybody stumbling around in the goddamn woods just when it's getting good." They all nodded. They'd all been here before. "Getting late," said Odell. She wore the parka hood down, and the parka itself was still unzipped, but she'd wrapped a red and white keffiyeh around her neck and chin. Purchased on a whim in the old city of Jerusalem, and meant to protect an Arab from the desert sun, it was now protecting a third-generation Irish woman from the Minnesota cold. "We better get out there and get settled." 5:45 in the morning, opening day of deer season. Odell led the way off the porch, the chairman of the board at her shoulder, and the other 3 men trailing behind. Terence Robles was the youngest of them, still in his mid-30s. He was a blocky man with thick black-rimmed glasses and a thin, curly beard. His watery blue eyes showed a nervous flash, and he laughed too often, a shallow, uncertain chuckle. He carried a stainless Seiko 270 mounted with a satin-finished Nikon scope. Robles had little regard for tradition. Everything he hunted with was new technology. James T. Bone might have been Susan Odell's brother. 40, as she was, Bone was slim, tanned, and dark-eyed, his face showing a hint of humor in a surface that was hard as a nut. He brought up the rear with a .243 Mauser Model 66 cradled in his bent left arm. 4 of the 5, the chairman of the board, Robles, Odell, and Bone, were serious hunters. The chairman's father had been a country banker. They'd had a nice, rambling, stone and redwood home on Blueberry Lake, south of Itasca, and his father had been big in Rotary and the Legion. The deer hunt was an annual ritual.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?